All right, everybody, I'm getting started.
All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Out of the Woods Growing Income from Your Forest webinar series. My name is Lindsay Kazarek, and I'll be your host for this evening, along with our program director, Joey Alloy. We have an amazing lineup of speakers for you this evening from some great partner organizations of the Appalachian program. To start things off this evening, we will have Ben Duval Irwin from the Appalachian Forest National Heritage Area.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me. Some of you may remember me from last summer. I was on here talking about some of our programs. This time, I'm going to talk about some of the new programs that we've got going on this year. But first off, just a refresher about what we do. I'm communications manager with the Appalachian Forest National Heritage Area, or as we like to call it, AFNHA for short, which still a little bit of a mouthful. And if you haven't heard of a national heritage area before, that means that we promote the natural, historic, and cultural assets in our region that are considered nationally important. And in our case, we cover 18 counties in West Virginia and Maryland, and we focus on what we call forest heritage. Here's a map of the counties that are included in our National Heritage Area. It's the two westernmost counties in Maryland, plus 16 in West Virginia, all of the Potomac Highlands region, all of the counties that touch the Monongahela National Forest, plus some others surrounding that. Some of the programs that I'm going to mention tonight are specific to our county, so I wanted to give you an idea of where we are. And first up, I wanted to talk about our pollinator initiative, which is our program that's probably most relevant to those of you here that are interested in agroforestry and that kind of stuff. Um, and let's see. And our pollinator initiative is our program that we started a few years ago to support pollinators and their habitats in our region. And we have a few goals for this program, which is to increase and improve habitat for pollinators, facilitate partnerships among conservation organizations, promote conservation in general, expand pollinator education, and produce research. And we do these a few different ways. Primarily, we've been focused on outreach. We've got a website with lots of information on it. We've tried to compile information related to pollinators, what plants are good for pollinators, what are the common pollinators in our area, how can you start a garden to help pollinators. So we've got some information compiled about that sort of things. We like to go to events, set up a table and talk to people. Sometimes we give away wildflower seeds, things like that. This year, we're stepping up the educational part of it. Our new AmeriCorps member is putting together some great activities for kids so they can learn some of this stuff. We're planning on putting together some lesson plans for teachers related to pollinators. In the past, we hosted a online conference about pollinators where people shared their original research, hitting that goal of producing research. And so we're glad to come out to a festival or event or come to talk to a school group, class, youth group, scouts, 4-H, whatever. Or you can go to our website to learn all about why pollinators are important and how we can help them. And one of our other programs that's relevant for those of you interested in agritourism is our Highlands Creative Economy program. This is a tourism development program that we've been running for a few years now, and it's mostly about networking and training. We host a monthly online meeting every fourth Thursday of the month, and this is kind of an open forum for anybody involved in tourism in our 18 counties to get together and talk to each other, see what's going on, what are the common problems we're facing, how can we help each other. We always feature a speaker on different topics that's relevant. Lindsay here is one of our regular attendees, and we've got a few, besides the monthly meeting, we've got a few other things involved in this program. One thing that we're doing new this year, which those of you who have your own business or have your own farm or whatever that's open to the public, is we're putting together what we're calling a tourism partner network. And this is going to be a way for us to promote all of the great tourism assets throughout our region in a cohesive way as a nationally important destination. And it's going to be pretty simple. We're just going to need some basic info from you, and we'll have a few criteria that you have to meet, like, are you open to the public? Do you have a website? What's your contact info? We're still figuring that out, but it'll be some simple eligibility criteria, and then building off of that, we will start including all of these different sites in our own promotion and trying to build that regional network of destinations. That's still in the works, but we're excited to roll that out soon. In addition to our monthly meeting, we host an annual tourism summit every year, usually in August. And again, this is inviting anybody interested in tourism in our region to gather and hear from some different experts. We always get some great speakers for that. We don't have any details yet, but keep that in mind for August. This past spring, we co-hosted an agritourism summit with Eastern West Virginia Community and Technical College. We won't be doing that this year, but we'll be having another one in spring of next year. So keep that in the back of your head. And we've got a few other training events that we'll be doing later this year. Beginning this spring, we're co-sponsoring a hospitality training series with Eastern. And this is a lunch and learn. So not only do you get to learn about hospitality management, but you get free lunch as well. The first one is going to be March 11th in Moorfield. So anybody in the Potomac Highlands area, you're invited to come to that. It's free, free to attend. We just need to get you to register. I can send the email for that later if anyone's interested. At AFNHA, we've for many years done a volunteer management training, which is typically only did for our AmeriCorps members. This year, we opened that up to the public, any partners with a volunteer program, or anybody who is trying to start their own volunteer program. This is useful for that. We expect to offer that again. It'll be an in-person meeting, most likely in September or October. Something new we did this year was our interpretation training. So how to communicate to the public about history, conservation, whatever, whether that's, signage, wars, exhibits, whatever. That was a big hit this year. So we are planning to do it again. That'll again most likely be an in-person event in the fall. And one thing that we're really excited about is our new grant program. We did our first one last year and we got a huge response, and we're planning on doing this every year. We have are planning on awarding a total of $200,000 for nonprofits and government agencies in our area for projects in 4 different themes: preservation, interpretation, tourism development, and partnership development. The applications can be from $1,000 minimum up to $20,000 maximum ask, with a 100% match that can be cash or in kind, but it can't be any federal funds. And the applications will probably be due in July, and we expect to open up our application portal early this summer. Last year it was June. We hope to open it up before then this year to give a bigger window for folks to work on their applications. But the guidelines will be very similar to our guidelines from last year, which still up on our website if you want to take a look at that. We had all kinds of different projects this year. We had repairs of historic buildings, several interpretive signs. We even had theatrical productions based on local history, lecture series, brochures, a new website. So there's lots of things that are eligible. It just has to be related to these 4 themes, and then related to our National Heritage Area themes of forest heritage as well. Future Generations got one this year. And last but not least, I just want to say a little bit about our AmeriCorps program, which is the program we've been known for the longest. It's one of our most successful programs. And if you're not familiar with that, we take individuals, they do a year of service at a host organization. Again, that's nonprofits or government agencies. This is a great way for low capacity organizations to get extra capacity and extra time and effort at a much lower price than hiring an employee outright. We will be taking applications for host sites this spring. Those will probably be due in April. And then, so if any of you have any projects that you want to do at your organization, but you feel like you don't have the time or the energy to do it, this can be a great way to get some extra help to do some heritage-based or conservation-based projects. Or if you or anyone you know is looking for some job experience in this kind of stuff, we'll be taking applications for our members this summer for the service term that starts in the fall. And we do this every year. And we've got info about that on our website as well. And that's about all I've got time for. Here's some of our contact information. If you want to go to our website, look at any of this stuff that I've mentioned, or you can reach out to me and I'll be here for questions. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ben. If you have questions for Ben or anything about the presentation, please feel free to drop those in the Q&A or the chat box, and we will get to those later on in the presentation. Next up, we are going to turn things over to Ian Nichols.
Hello, everybody. I'm Ian Nichols from Virginia Tech. So I'm the project associate for this grant. We've got Catalyzing Agroforestry grant program at Virginia Tech. And this is one of the grants we've got, but there's two other grants we're working with. So right now, Virginia Tech is doing a lot of work on agroforestry in the region. And so for this grant, this is an initiative to fund agroforestry practices. So we are trying to catalyze agroforestry across the region. And so last year we started in 2022 and we had a successful first round. And so we've adapted some things, and one of those is to fund all agroforestry practices, not just silvopasture or forest farming. And so with that, we can give up to $1,500 an acre, and then we can also provide technical assistance. Though with this grant, I would say because it's become very competitive, just because it's such a wide region, that those applicants that tend to be the best tend to float up to the top, and it becomes time to judge the applications. And so again, with that, the applications, originally we started with just the Appalachia region, and then we realized we were getting so much questions about people in other regions that we decided to open up to all states. And so part of this grant program to catalyze agroforestry, we really want to work at theory of change and how to create positive change to get people to start taking on these practices. And so with that, we're creating the Agroforestry Regional Knowledge Exchange. And that's everyone who applies for this grant and is awarded the grant agrees to do one of these events. And it's really just peer-to-peer learning networks. And so connecting farmers to technical service providers, universities, and other NGOs that are working in the sphere. And so, and we also understand that it's, depending on your type of farm, you might not want a farm tour. And so, like later on, I'm going to show a farm where they're planting 6,000 ginseng seeds. And so if you're doing ginseng forest farming, you probably don't want people coming to your farm. And so there's other ways we can get around that by doing webinars or recorded videos or just doing outreach in the local community. So we had a farm in Ohio, and after they planted their silvopasture, they did a local news segment explaining agroforestry and why they were doing it and the benefits of it. And so again, with that first round, we've gotten, this was silvopasture and forest farming only, but we've gotten 17 projects completed across the Appalachia region. And so that's 131 acres, about 10,000 trees. And so we still have 7 to finish in the spring, and that'll add another about 50 acres and then another 3,000 trees. And so then with the forest farming, we've been able to protect about 50 acres of forest. And that's through planting forest farming botanicals or through prepping land to plant later. And so with that, we've gotten 22 forest farms established or expanded. And then we've got 6 more to finish in the spring. And this is all through also with our partners with this project at Virginia Tech, which is silviculture, Appalachian Sustainable Development, Rural Action, and North Carolina State. And so this is just an example from early on, just the silvopasture sites. But you can see kind of the wide region we had. And I need to update this to add a lot of the forest farming sites, which you can imagine are going to be more in Appalachia. And so just to give you an example of the type of projects that we've been funding, because when you say all agroforestry practices, but even in the silvopasture, there's lots of different systems you can have, designs. The livestock matters a lot. And so this is a farm in Ohio. And so they planted 485 trees, and they're using a method that Trees for Grazer uses in Pennsylvania. So they're a consultant that puts in silvopasture designs. And so they're able to run a live wire along the tubes, and that basically provides the fencing that you need to protect the tubes and to keep the cattle from rubbing against the tubes. And so their long-term goals is to have switched to more of a hog livestock system. And so that's why they have a lot of nuts and the group of trees that they're planting. But right now they just want shade for the cattle. And so this is a farm in Maryland, Polly. And so this was 12 acres, and it's a mix of persimmon, honey locust, and there's a willow brake near the highway. And she's got, her livestock are sheep that she's got for wool. And so that's why this grid that she's got works well, because she really just wants to cut down on food costs. And so that's why she picked persimmon and honey locust. And so she came up with this design herself. And so it's really just kind of helping her along the edges to perfect her plan. And so this is a forest farm, Talus Slope Farm. And so there are 2 acres in North Carolina. And again, planting 6,000 ginseng, which is a lot of work. I will say with these projects and kind of tracking them, the planting a tree is a lot easier than planting 6,000 ginseng seeds. And so it's just being aware of the amount of work you're going to have to put in for these agroforestry projects. And so this was a really interesting project in Virginia. Dana, she had 7 acres, but she's already doing Graze 300, which is a Virginia Tech initiative to encourage more grazing throughout the winter, to get 300 days out of the pastures. And so to increase her efficiency, she wanted to put in silvopasture system. And so you can see with this, it's really diverse. And her goal is, as the hickories grow, which are slower, she'll cut out a lot of those faster growing trees. And that might be for coppice or fodder or for firewood. And this is kind of more of a food forest farm. So Jubilee Climate Farm, they help displaced people in the States that are recent immigrants to help learn how to actually farm in this climate if they don't know how to. And so what they've done is they planted a lot of trees, and that's because it's basically a food forest. It's really dense. And so they planted a lot of trees for human food, but then they're also going to use sheep to cut down the grass between the alleys of the trees. And with that, a lot of this, the trees are going to be used for fodder for the sheep. And this is a farm, it's a CSA, and as part of a Mennonite community. And so this is a scenic outlook that they have that the community visits often. And so with this, they planted fruit and nut trees to help feed the community with the CSA, but then also starting a plant bank with the 249 different types of willow species. And then within this, between the trees, they're planting fruit shrubs that can also be sold at the CSA. And this is another forest farmer, James Robinson. And so he's actually in California, but he comes to Ohio to try and encourage people to plant forest farms in their backyards. And so this was a great one for us to fund because we want to get more agroforestry into urban areas and the cities. And so he works with different landowners to put in these forest farming systems. And this is one more in Appalachia. It's in Large Hollow Road. And so this was just a small system. So also you can see it doesn't have to be a big project. This is a beginning farmer. And so they want to start having livestock, the sheep, but then also thinking long-term, okay, what can they also do with that? And so they were thinking of hazelnuts and ice cream and things like that. And so this is just a simple planning they put in to start out. And they were quite successful with it. And so this is the grant program. It's funded by the Edwards Mother Earth Foundation. So that's a private grant. And so we're giving direct support to farmers. And again, that's up to 1,500 an acre. And it goes down as you increase in acreage. So beyond 4 acres, it's 1,000 an acre. And then beyond 8 acres and beyond, it's $750 an acre. And so the application is always open and rolling. And we're going to have another funding round 2 in April 1st. And so the website is down here. And that's got all the information on there. It's got the application. We can take applications by mail. You can always email me with questions. That'll be on the website. And we also take calls to help people can understand the program better. And we're also, again, a link to some other forestry, agroforestry projects in the States right now. And thank you very much. And I can answer questions at the end.
So thanks so much, Ian. We're going to turn things over to our friends at NRCS, Kyle and Julie.
Thanks, Lindsay. I'm going to start sharing my screen. Please stop me if any audio or video isn't working. But my name is Kyle Oldinger. I'm the state biologist for NRCS in West Virginia. Just wanted to say thanks. First of all, thanks for Future Generations for hosting this and for all of our attendees for coming out tonight. With our presentation today, it's going to be 2 sections. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the technical assistance side, conservation planning side, and then my colleague Julie is going to talk more about some of the program side. Just kind of a really high level explanation of who we are as an agency. We are a federal agency with the United States Department of Agriculture. Our focus is on natural resources on private land. We assist a variety of different types of operations, whether they're livestock or forestry or more wildlife focused. Many different types of landowners and operators find a way to work with us. So this presentation is going to be really high level, just because the programs that we offer to address resource concerns related to natural resources are so varied. So I'm going to start, like I mentioned, by talking more about the technical side of things. I'll start with what we call conservation technical assistance. This is where we provide West Virginia farmers, forest owners, and others with knowledge and tools they need to conserve, maintain, and restore natural resources on their operations, on their land. and improve the health of that operation for the future. We offer conservation technical assistance at no cost to the producers that we serve. Our goal is to give those customers personalized advice and information, which is based on latest science and research. And this hopefully helps our customers to make informed decisions about their operations. If a producer then chooses to take that kind of simple technical assistance to the next step towards improving their operations, we can work with them to develop a formal conservation plan. And this conservation plan will include suggested conservation practices that can help them reach their production and conservation goals. After that conservation plan is developed, producers can also choose to apply for financial assistance to help to get help covering the costs of installing the conservation practices that are outlined in that conservation plan. And Julie will talk in more detail on this in a few more slides later. So I started with that slide on conservation technical assistance. We do that often, where we just kind of have a question or customer looking for some simple advice. But a lot of times that will lead to development of a more formal conservation plan. That conservation plan identifies the customer's objectives, and we work with the customer then to assess and analyze the natural resource issues on their land. And that those might be related to any number of natural resources. We categorize them into a few different bins, and that includes soil, water, animals, plants, air, energies, and humans. And all those things, of course, interact with each other. The conservation plan includes tools and resources that are customized specifically for each customer. So there's no one size fits all. The conservation plan include things like a land use map, soils information, photos, inventory of different resources, economic costs and benefit analyses, a schedule of recommended practices, operation and maintenance, engineering notes and designs. And these are all based on the producer's goals and the needs of the resource. So there's always a balancing act there. And of course, this conservation plan is the producer's plan. We're just there to facilitate. That plan is written in a clear and in a step-by-step type of format that meets the customer's needs, and the customer can choose options that suit their circumstances and their time schedule. So you may have multiple alternatives to choose from, and then even within a preferred alternative, customers can choose when and how quickly they want to implement that. The conservation planning process is a collaboration between the conservation planner from NRCS. We also rely heavily on partners like state agencies, the Division of Forestry, Division of Natural Resources, and some nonprofits as well. Conservation planners are there working with the customer every step of the way to assist customers with ultimately with implementation as it's needed. And so I wanted to touch a little bit on how the conservation plan is developed. We follow a 9-step process that includes the steps that are shown here on the screen. The first phase consists of 4 steps, and this is really when we're sitting down and talking with the customer about what their goals are, their objectives, what problems and opportunities are present. Once we get a good handle on that, we move on and collect some field inventory. We analyze those data, determine what resource concerns are there. Moving into phase 2 is when we, based on that inventory data and the resource concerns present, formulate different alternatives to address those resource concerns and accomplish goals of the customer. The customer then evaluates those different alternatives with us based on information we provide, and ultimately in step 7, the customer makes decisions about which alternative they want to move forward with, called the preferred alternative. And then finally, it just kind of is a transition to Julie's section. We get to phase 3, which is the application and evaluation. This is where typically where the financial assistance comes in, but not always. Customers, of course, can move forward without financial assistance if they want, but this is a phase where they implement the plan, and then it is an iterative process. So we implement certain practices, come back and see if it had the desired effect. Maybe down the road there was a need for additional practices, so we're always evaluating that plan. And with that, I wanted to turn over to Julie, and she's going to talk a little bit about some programs that we have to help with that implementation.
Yep. So when landowners or operators come to us with ideas that they have for their operation, our field staff goes out with them and goes through that planning process, like Kyle outlined. And we look at different aspects of your operation, whether it be grazing aspects, forest stewardship aspects, wildlife management, crop production, all across the board. Whatever your goals are for your land, we're going to help look at that and evaluate it, incorporate that into our planning process. And then we also have funding opportunities, which is really great because, that planning process that Kyle talked about is really a record of your decisions that you want to do for your property. And a lot of times that can tie into some financial assistance. So if you're already planning on, improving your grazing, doing some work in your woodlot, increasing production through a high tunnel or something like that, there's funding already there to help you to do that. So you can take our recommendations and implement that plan on your own, or you can take some assistance from us, financial assistance, and help expedite that process as well. So the way that works is the first step is that planning process that Kyle talked about. You're going to talk about what you want to do with your property, and then you file an application. And one of the jobs of our field staff is to help guide you through that application process and eligibility process. Eligibility, there are certain forms that you have to file either once when you get a farm, or once every year. Those differ, but typically when you apply for a program, we're going to have you fill that eligibility paperwork out at the same time. If the fiscal year changes between when you apply and when you're eligible for funding, we may have to have you fill out some more paperwork too. So my recommendation is just to stay in touch with your NRCS office every couple of months to see where you are with that eligibility process and program implementation process. And then we rank applications we answer a series of questions. Basically, we do an assessment on your property, and then there's a series of ranking questions that assign a value to your application, and then we fund from the top ranking applications down. Once we have a contract in place, and your NRCS agent will help define that for you. Once we have a contract in place, we'll start implementing that. That's something that you as a participant will work on your own. You can hire a contractor, and then we reimburse you for those. Kyle, if you could go to the next slide. So the way that kind of looks in West Virginia specifically, we have planning assistance available through NRCS and partner foresters. So in NRCS, we only have a certain capacity to hire our own foresters. So we've reached out to partners to help fill that gap, to provide the amount of service that we need to the entire state. So when you contact the office, you may be speaking with someone from NRCS. You may be speaking with a forester from Division of Forestry. Could be an option. American Bird Conservancy, National Turkey Foundation. Those are all our partners that we're using to carry out this work. So it may not be one of our actual employees that can assist you. We also, like I said, use Division of Forestry, and then we also have technical service providers. The technical service providers, we can enter into an agreement where you pay them to provide a written plan for you, or just depending on your time frame, you can wait for an NRCS forester to provide you with that planning assistance. So just depends on how quickly you want the assistance, how in depth you want the assistance. If you are focusing your forest management in a particular aspect, that a technical service provider would make more sense, for forest farming or something like that, to provide you with assistance. That's an option. And then aside from the planning assistance, we also offer assistance for carrying out those practices, right? So if we recommend and you want to do some sort of crop tree release or coal tree removal, invasive species removal, our implementation assistance programs. EQIP is typically, EQIP is the acronym, Environmental Quality Incentives Program. That's typically our go-to program, our bread and butter, first stop if you want to get started with our programs. It pays you a per acre or per item amount to implement something. So if you had 10 acres of invasive species removal, that could be something that EQIP could help you implement. Conservation Stewardship Program is for folks that already have conservation management plans of some sort, have implemented part of that, and want to move forward a little bit more with that implementation. So maybe they've already taken care of their invasive species and want to do a thinning to improve the timber stand improvement. That's something that this conservation stewardship program would come into play. But in my experience in the field, when I had customers come to me with goals for their property, programs aren't really something that we discuss. We more discuss their goals for the property, and then I help guide them to the right program for that. So Kyle, if you want to advance the slide. If anyone is interested in any sort of assistance provided by NRCS, whether that be just purely technical assistance, or if you're just interested in the financial assistance, that's okay too. there's a place to start from, and contacting your local service center. They'll be able to guide you the best way for your property, a tailored plan, whether that involves programs or not. So that's all I have.
Thank you so much, Kyle and Julie. We are going to turn things over now to Ms. Ennis Smith, who is making her Out of the Woods debut.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having me as part of the program this evening. And I am just looking to share my screen here. And to start things off, too, I'll say, again, my name is Ennis Smith, and I am Director of Destination Development for the West Virginia Department of Tourism. And here tonight, I'm so excited to be able to talk to you all as a group and share a little bit about our resources. Let's see, I'm not seeing what I want to share is the option. 1 second here. Oh, there it is. There it is. All right, so I'm going to go into full screen with this presentation. And so please do interrupt me because I won't be able to see the chat if there's anything going wrong or you're not seeing the slides change or anything like that, but we will hold questions till the end. So at Department of Tourism, our whole mission for the West Virginia Department of Tourism, again, is to bring resources to tourism businesses and partners across the state to try to help market the state as a whole, to try to spread the word that West Virginia is a destination, even internationally. It's, a world-class tourism destination across the state. And so with that very broad mission, we have a range of different types of services for tourism businesses, including agritourism and agroforestry related tourism businesses that are all part of that visitor experience for folks. And we kind of divide our resources up between marketing and public relations, and then some industry resources and economic development. So first, I'm going to talk a little bit about marketing and public relations. And the very first thing I would say that you should do is get connected with the backside of our website that we call the Partner Portal. And in that portal is where you can sign up and access a whole range of different resources. If you scroll down from the main West Virginia tourism site, you'll see the industry resources page link there near the bottom, and you'll see how to sign up for this portal. Then once you're in there, you can create a business listing for your business if you are accepting visitors and you have regular open hours and an address where folks can show up. And we also have an opportunity to add events to our events calendar. So you can list your business for free. Then you can also go in and list if you're having a festival, if you're having a workshop, something that someone visiting the region would be interested in stopping by. We would love to have that as part of our events calendar, which tends to be one of the most viewed parts of the site. So it can be helpful. And that way too, even if you don't have a separate website for the event, this can be a helpful web presence to have it listed on our calendar. Another set of resources is the Cooperative Advertising Program through West Virginia Department of Tourism. And this program, it's basically a matching program for purchasing advertising for tourism sites. And the way that it tends to work, if it's a single partner, like a single business destination that's participating, it's a 50-50 match. If it's a multi-regional group, like I think about the Appalachian Forest National Heritage Area and the network of partners they're creating, a multi-regional group like that includes at least 3 counties, that includes multiple sets of folks working across county boundaries, that actually is eligible for a 75% match under the program right now. And so, $100,000, if we were doing really big, $100,000 advertising buy would actually only be $25,000 for the partner that's participating, or as just an example. And the way that this works is we do have Almost Heaven branding that's included in those ads. So we're trying to make sure when we reach out to these markets that we're in, they see that Almost Heaven brand multiple times, and then they also see the logos, the photos, the advertisements for the specific tourism entities and regions that are part of the program. And then you also get reporting and research showing who those ads reached, how many impressions they made. That's a big part of it. And the prices that we get for purchasing the ads themselves, since we are purchasing them in such a larger group, those prices themselves, we have more buying power and can get a better deal. And in order to participate in this co-op advertising program, you do have to fit into one of these categories of eligible partners. And you can see it's a pretty wide range of different types of partners who can participate. And if you have a question about eligibility, of course, just reach out to us and we can take a look at that. And these are just some examples of ads that have been purchased through the program. And as you can see, the first one there was with State Parks, another one with Huntington. You can see the partner logo as well as the West Virginia logos there together. And that tends to be how they look. These are some examples of what might be in like a metro station or on a bus wrap. So we call the out of home examples. And so just really nice, beautiful imagery of the state. Another thing to mention is that our advertising agency and our staff do all the creative for the ads. So you would go into our portal and purchase the ads that you like, and then we would ask you to send us, photos that you have, send us talking points and logos. If we take a look at the photos and we don't think they're going to work for the type of ad you've purchased, we can also have some free assistance for getting some more photo assets as well. These are just some examples of digital ads through that program, and digital and social media tend to be one of the more affordable ways to start out and dip your toe into the program. I think in this last round, we had ones that were under $500, packages you could buy for social media type ads. And the other types, well, just to wrap up that co-op program, one thing I didn't say about it is open seasonally. So we just had the portal for buying spring and summer ads open over the past month and a half, and it just closed last week. So the next opportunity to buy ads through that cooperative advertising program is going to be for fall and winter ads for the 2024-2025 winter season, which I can't believe is coming up, sooner than we think. But that'll be in about June. We will open the portal for those fall and winter ads. So some other types of marketing and public relations services that we have, we've got 8 state-run welcome centers across the state, and we can distribute brochures for free through those centers. The tourism business would print the brochures and send them to us, but distribution through those welcome centers is free. We also have a media library of photos that you can download from our website. You can freely use photos and B-roll however you'd like to use them to help market. And then you also can, and of course, give us credit for them. We always like to see West Virginia Department of Tourism credited for those. We also have photography assistants. So I just mentioned if you're participating in the co-op advertising program and you don't have photos that can be used for the type of ad you've purchased, we can also help with that for free. We do FAM trips, these media familiarization trips, where we'll bring in journalists, travel writers, to social media influencers to come and experience West Virginia. And you can let us know in that partner portal that I mentioned. There's a checkbox in the PR assistance form, and you can let us know you're interested in us sending those travel writers your way. So I would encourage you to get that portal account and fill that out and let us know if that's something you're interested in as well. We also have an opportunity for you to write blog content on the West Virginia Tourism site. So we've got a part of the site that's called the Explorers blog, and you can see some examples of those online. We want the voice to be, an expert telling visitors, telling others about wonderful, important things to do in the state. And, you may specifically want to highlight a farm, a specific outdoor experience, but through that blog, if you can also build out an itinerary and say, well, this is where you should stop for lunch. This is where you can stop along the way at a brewery. Maybe this is a maple syrup related festival you can stop at. There's all kinds of great blog content that we'd love to include in that. And that again is a free opportunity. We also offer event support. So coming out to your event, if it makes sense and if the calendar allows, and materials requests. So you can go into the partner portal that I mentioned and request bulk boxes of our new vacation guides, of highway maps, of state park guides, and then you can distribute those at your sites. They're free as well. Then we have a whole range of industry development resources, and these include monthly training webinars that we do. We have not released yet our 2024 schedule, but we'll be working on that. Sometimes these have to do with grant opportunities. Sometimes they're about marketing. Other times the specific programs like the Civil War Trails signage program did one for us recently where they spoke about their program. Then we also have some events and resources for networking at those events. Coming up next week on Monday, we have Tourism Day at the Legislature. I know, for example, the Appalachian Forest National Heritage Area is going to be there. We would love for anyone on this call to sign up and be there. We have maxed out our space for tables, I think, at this point at that day on Monday, but we'd still love for anyone to attend and come and be part of the event this year. Annually, we also do the Governor's Conference on Tourism, which is a great networking opportunity as well as educational. We'll bring in speakers, from national groups to really try to highlight how we can build up our industry and work together in West Virginia. We also offer international tourism assistance. So if you're interested in accessing those international markets, you can also reach out to us and we can connect you with a consultant that we've hired to help West Virginia businesses do that. On our website and in the partner portal that I keep mentioning, you'll also see a section with our research reports. That's something we highlight every year is the research that's done on economic impact of tourism as well as visitor studies. And then we've got, just to go quickly through this, a range of economic development type resources for those really big projects that are over $1 million in investment coming into the state. These are often, new hotels being built. Sometimes it's a new, really upscale, restaurant farm complex. I think a farm works wonders in Wardensville. There's, worked with raft companies, all kinds of different projects, but when there's that level of at least $1 million in investment, we have this Tourism Development Act tax credit program to incentivize that development. And we also have a resource guide where we've put together a list of grants and opportunities that we think folks in the tourism industry should be aware of. So one of our roles, we try to think of the department as connecting all these grant and incentive opportunities with tourism businesses and organizations. So for example, in this guide, we've got the Appalachian Forest National Heritage Areas grants, and I just learned about some more tonight that I think we'll need to add there. Let's see here. We also like to try to connect those that reach out to us with lending if needed. I'm not sure it's on the slide, but Partner Community Capital is another group we work with who provides both lending and technical assistance. And they've got a program specifically for recreational businesses and lending right now. The West Virginia Department of Highways signage program for tourism folks. If you're having trouble connecting with that department, we want to try to be your liaison and connect you with that signage program to highlight your site from the road, as well as the Industrial Road Access Fund for road projects. We also have a project called Tourism Works that's all about workforce development, where tourism eligible businesses can apply for funds to have continuing education and training for their employees. And the last thing, they're just navigating state government in general. If there's another agency you're trying to contact, if there's a permit that's holding you up from expanding your tourism business or having it be more sustainable, please let us know, and we'll try our best to at least make that connection and point you in the right direction. And then, so this is the QR code for signing up for that partner portal that I keep mentioning, where all these resources are housed. And so I think that covers, what I wanted to cover for this evening, and thank you all again for the opportunity to share about that.
Thank you, Agnes. Again, if anyone has questions, please feel free to pop those in the Q&A or the chat box, and we will get to those shortly. And now, last but not least, is Appalachian Program Director Joey Alloy.
Hey everyone. So I have the tough job after a great and detailed long webinar already to play cleanup batter. And so I'm going to be talking about everything that we have going on in the Appalachian program in terms of education and funding opportunities, and some of the things that our partners have gone through or have available, excuse me. I have a lot here, and I'm going to try to run through it fairly quick so that we have plenty of time for questions afterwards. And so that's why I have put my email address down here at the bottom of the first slide. Because if anyone wants to, you can email me. I'll send you this whole presentation, and it has links and email addresses for all the opportunities. Of course, this is also being live streamed on our YouTube channel, Nature-Based Enterprises. So you can go there and watch it again and just put it in slow-mo or whatever. And if you don't want to look through the presentation over email. So I'm going to start with the educational events, both online and in person. You'll see as we go through here, right? I'll name the event at the top, and then on the right in parentheses, I'll say who it's hosted by. So if it's not us, I may not have all the details when we get to the chat, but I have a lot more details than show up here, right? And this is the first opportunity that's coming up. It's tomorrow from noon to 1:30, forest farming office hours by NC State Extension, North Carolina State, and the Appalachian Beginning Forest Farmers Coalition. It's a Q&A updates, a conversation a lot like this, but you can really get into the weeds back and forth with practical questions about anything about forest farming. The next one is happening on February 16th, and that's the last one for this winter. And then I think there'll be some more in the spring, but I don't know the dates on those yet. NC State, if you're not familiar, and the Appalachian Beginning Forest Farmers Coalition are super knowledgeable groups, right? So one of our programs that's starting very soon, this Tuesday, January 23rd, is Sprout School. And Sprout School is a 9-month training program for anyone who's interested in working with youth around agricultural production. That can be in a lot of different ways and in a lot of different capacities. It doesn't necessarily have to be folks who are working in the school system. So we have a nice blog post that explains a lot more about that. You can head there, but really the best way to learn, and especially if you want to sign up, is to email either Jenny or Margaret in the Appalachian program at Future Generations, and they will get you signed up. One thing that I'm going to plug here, and I'll plug it again later, is that as part of this, we're educating and reaching out folks on the existing Maple in the Classroom program. Sprout School is really going to be doing more of that education work too. And in that capacity, Margaret's going to be leading a tapping and tasting outreach event in Charleston at Spring Hill Cemetery, February 24th. So, you know, you can email Jenny for any Sprout School thing, but specifically if you're in Charleston, email Margaret on that one. All right. The next is another online training opportunity, Ask an Agroforester. And this is a very similar Q&A session to the one that we showed with the office hours, except it's a little different. You're usually asking producers who are doing this sort of thing, or people who have experience. And they're usually presentations before these too. Appalachian Sustainable Development, great organization on they do great agroforestry work. And this series begins next week, January 25th, right? A week from today. It usually goes from 6:30 to 8 in the evening. There are exceptions where they change it up. It's going to run for at least 10 months. And this first month is going to be specifically about funding opportunities, right? So if you're not hearing enough funding opportunities tonight, you can hear about more next Thursday evening. And then here's one that we do a lot of work with in partnership, of course, with the West Virginia Maple Syrup Producers Association and the West Virginia Department of Ag, is Mountain State Maple Days. We think it's probably the largest agritourism event in the state. People open up their sugar houses to visitors and show folks how maple syrup is made. And then also restaurants and all sorts of organizations participate in various ways to highlight how great maple syrup is. We have two of them, 2 Saturdays, February 17th and March 16th. Okay, my next slide's also on Maple Days. Yeah. And so if you wanted to sign up and be included in all advertising, it's a little too late for that. That was September. But you can still sign up if you want to participate, and you'll get on the map and you go to the West Virginia Maple Syrup Producers Association's page, and there's a Maple Days 24 little bullet you can click on, and then there's an entry form that you fill out if you want to participate. If you are a producer and you're already going to participate, but you know you've maybe not had such great attendance in previous years and you want to get more folks involved, we have a producer media kit that will help you promote yourself, and it comes with all kinds of great stuff, and it really makes the process seamless for you. Also, one of the best resources is here on this webinar, Lindsay. Lindsay's been helping with promoting Maple Days for years, and you can just send her an email, and she will help you with navigating this if you need help. Send an email to me as well if you want. Right across the state line, a very similar festival, Highland County Maple Festival, March 9th and 10th, and then 16th and 17th. So it's 2 weekends instead of just 2 days. I think it's the oldest and probably the largest maple festival in the country. They get around 20,000 people showing up in Highland County that weekend, and it's a big deal. This year is what, the 64th annual, so that's a long running festival. Put on by the Highland County Chamber of Commerce, and then a whole bunch of maple syrup producers in Virginia. If y'all don't know where Highland is, it's sort of in the corner right there between Pocahontas and Pendleton. So pretty easy to get to if you're in the eastern part of the state. And the West Virginia WVU Extension's Small Farm Center puts on every year the Small Farm Conference. And I know that a lot of y'all already know about this. I'm highlighting it this year It's happening third week of February because we will have a table there, the Appalachian program. So if you're in Charleston anyway, this is a great opportunity to sort of ask us a bunch of nosy questions that you feel too embarrassed to ask over email or something like that, right? We're leading a workshop on introduction to sweet opportunities, I think is what Casey's calling it, and that's a intro to tree syrups workshop. So if you haven't done tree syrup production, maple or walnut or sycamore, this is a good place to learn. We're also helping coordinate the farm to school day. As with Sprout School, that's a good question for Jenny, if you have one. And we are hosting a workshop and meetup for our Reconnecting Heroes program, which is the program where we're helping veterans integrate veteran service missions into their farm operations. I didn't put Heather's email up here, but she's probably the one to ask for details about that. We checked the Small Farms Conference website, and they don't have the full agenda up there, so I can't tell you when these sessions will be yet. But if you go to that website right there, when they have a full schedule, it will appear right there. And like I mentioned, during Small Farms Conference at the tail end of it, Margaret's leading a tapping and tasting outreach event in Charleston. If you haven't been to one of those, they're a lot of fun. All right, probably the biggest conference that's going on this spring is Gather to Grow, which is put on by the Appalachian Beginning Forest Farmers Coalition. This is going to really cover basically everything. There are 3 days. One of them, the first, is an outdoor day of workshops, music, food, art, murals, and then of course actual workshops on forest farming and agroforestry practices, right? So you can learn about woodland botanical farming. That's if you want to grow ginseng or cohosh or something. Mushroom cultivation, site selection. How do you know which parts of the woods are appropriate for which practices? Product handling and preparation. How do you make sure that the stuff you're pulling out of the woods makes it to market, right? All of that, and including one workshop that our very own Mike Recklin's going to be leading, which will take you through syrup production from basically looking at a wood shop, or excuse me, looking at a woodlot, going through setting up tubing, and then running the evaporator, so you get all of the outdoor components of making syrup, and that's on Friday the 22nd. And the Catawba Center is a big outdoor farm, over 300 acres, that's part of Virginia Tech, and it's half hour or so from Roanoke, Virginia, which is where the other 2 days of the conference will be taking place, in the Hotel Roanoke. It's an indoor day of presentations. Mike will be giving another presentation, this one on the science of tree syrups and why you should drill holes in your trees. I think is the title of the presentation. Tom Hammett and I will be presenting on our Reading the Woods program, which you may have heard us mention a few times here on this webinar, and this will be a pretty good presentation. We're trying to get some feedback too on this, where we are extending a program that we've built to help service providers, and we're trying to extend it to help educate producers. So it's going to be a new spin if you've been familiar with that and if you're interested in that program. And then all day long there is a youth program in this indoor presentation at the hotel. So that's great for if you have kids and you want to be able to bring them with you. And it's also great if you just know that kids need some education on agroforestry. Sunday, there are more workshops. There are regional roundtables and other things like that. You can register at that website, appalachianforestfarmers.org/24conference. The next thing after that that's going to come up is the West Virginia Maple Syrup Producers Association annual meeting, April 19th. There's a pre-conference training. Steve Childs is going to come on and tell us how to make candy and other things out of maple syrup, which is a big deal for those who are looking into value-added uses for your syrup. This guy's really the expert. He literally wrote the book. And And then the 20th is the annual meeting and conference at Jackson's Mill. The next thing after that, and this is getting close to the end of the spring, the middle of the spring, the West Virginia Forest Farming Forum, hosted usually at the U Mountain Center, but by the U Mountain Center and the West Virginia Forest Farming Initiative. I have a flyer from last year, but you see I scribbled out the date because May 18th is actually what day it'll be this year. The agenda and things haven't solidified yet, but you can go to this website, wvforestfarming.org/forum, and you'll get the agenda from last year, so you can get a feeling for the type of workshops that we have there. It's a great gathering. I hope to be there again this year. And then this one's pretty heavy duty. If you are really interested in learning about agroforestry, our master's program is offering a residential course where you fly to Bolivia with Dr. Dan Robeson for, 11 days, and you get to see some of the most innovative, cutting edge agroforestry work at a cacao cooperative. We don't really do cocoa in agroforestry in Appalachia, but in tropical parts of the world, it's huge. You can learn more at future.edu/Bolivia if you want to go. This one's not just time intensive, 11 days, but it's also it's kind of pricey, and it really is a graduate level college course. So if you want to learn more and talk more about what's going on in Bolivia, but you're not sure you're up for a graduate level course, I'm sure Dan will have some conversations with you. And that is, and please make sure you've registered by April if you do want to do that. That's it for the educational opportunities. And now I'm going to go through funding fairly quick so that we can get through to some questions and answers times, right? So Ian already talked about catalyzing agroforestry. There's a similar grant program for folks in West Virginia ran by the West Virginia Forest Farming Initiative, same folks as U Mountain Center, right? And it helps you can get planting stock, harvest tools, site security, which is important if you're doing ginseng, because you got to worry about poachers and other things like that, including forest grown verification certification, right? Or the cost of application. We had a webinar about that around a year ago, maybe a year and a half. And it's a very interesting program. There's a rolling deadline. It is up to $400, and I think that's total. I don't think that's per acre. And you can fill out this Google Doc form and get more questions answered and also apply that way. And then this one's bigger. It's newer. It's new to me. I just learned about it. It was yesterday. Learned a lot of the details. So the Building Sweat Building Equity Program from Accelerating Appalachia is funding for implementation of, or the drawdown associated with, and long-term participation in any climate-smart agriculture and forestry practices. And boy, that's a big mouthful. So in a couple slides, I'll show you exactly what they do and don't cover to what degree, right? It also funds travel to any of the training. So if you've been approved for implementation or participation incentives, which means they're paying you to do these practices, they will also pay you to travel to trainings where they educate you on how to do this stuff well. There is, with these, limit a total of 200,000 per applicant. The way they say which practices, climate smart agriculture and forestry practices, are acceptable is through NRCS practice codes. Now, that doesn't mean you actually need to have an NRCS contract. It just means that the folks at the National Center for Appropriate Technology and the other service providers who are giving technical assistance and evaluating your practices will be using the same set of standards that NRCS uses, that folks like Kyle and Julie use to measure whether you're doing the practice or not, right? So depending on the practice, you get a different amount of money. It's anywhere from $75 an acre to $1,000 an acre. And a lot of these are similar to the things that Ian talked about. It includes forest farming, silvopasture, riparian buffers, alley cropping, and so pretty much any agroforestry practice. But it also includes things like cover crops. If you're just growing corn or growing wheat and you want to plant cover crops in the fall, they'll help pay you for that. If you want to till less or go no till, they'll pay you for that, right? And those sorts of things. You don't get any incentive money if you're already doing this. Sorry. You have to begin at least one new practice. That's why it's called accelerating, right? You're getting people moving. The region for this is pretty wide, right? It includes all of West Virginia, but it does not, I'm sorry to say, include the 2 counties of Western Maryland that are in the National Heritage Area, sorry. And it includes everywhere in Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, parts of Georgia, parts of Ohio. It's reimbursement based, so I know I said back here, right, you can get 200,000 per applicant, but you have to actually spend that money first and then you'll get it back, which is a lot out of pocket, I know. So I wanted to warn folks about it. It's funded at least through 2028 and probably longer, and there's their website where you can learn more. And then, like I said, here's my email again. So please email me with more questions that you don't have time for now, or just if you need to be able to digest that PowerPoint presentation at a slower pace, because I just threw a lot of information out there really, really fast.
Great, thank you so much. It looks like we have several email addresses that have been entered into the chat for follow-up. So if you would like to reach out to any of our speakers this evening via email, you can contact them directly. And I also included Heather's email address, who helps facilitate our Reconnecting Heroes program here at the university. So while we're giving everyone a few moments to put any questions they may have into the chat or Q&A, Joey, do you want to go ahead and launch the poll? And I actually had 2 questions for Ben. Ben, how would a producer or small business that is interested in your new tourism partner program, how could they stay informed about that or receive information whenever that is available?
Thanks for the question. We're still in the process of developing all this information, and we haven't quite figured out how we're going to go about this yet. But once we do figure that out, there's a couple ways that you'll be able to hear about it. One is to subscribe to our newsletter, which you can join on our website, afnha.org. I also mentioned our Highlands Creative Economy meetings. We have a email list for that as well. There's a separate sign up button for that email address on our website. If you go to our website, look under our programs tab, we've got pages for each of these programs that I've been mentioning. So we have a sign up list for our Highlands Creative Economy program as well, which is specific to the tourism related stuff. And you can, even if you don't want to attend the meetings, you can get on the email list and keep an eye out for announcements. And we're hoping to start rolling that program out later this year. Hopefully by
Perfect.
our tourism summit in August.
Great. And then for any small business that is in the AFNHA region that would be interested in participating in your grant program that may not be a nonprofit, how could a small business get involved with the grant program? Could you talk a little bit about what that looks like?
Yeah, good question. As I mentioned, our grant program is only open to nonprofits and government agencies, so that doesn't include private businesses or for-profit organizations. But what you can do is partner with somebody else who does have a 501c3 or a local government entity to act as a fiscal sponsor for your project. So if you're a business owner and you have, an idea for a project that you do want to get funded that's related to our mission and themes, then if you can find a local organization who is a nonprofit, then they can do the application on your behalf. There might be a small fee involved with that, depending on what you work out with the fiscal agent. That's what we recommend in that case. In which case, the fiscal agent or the organization sponsoring it would be the ones to apply and manage the money on your behalf.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ben. Well, it doesn't look like we have any additional, oh wait, that's not true. We do have another question. This question is for Ian. Are the funds you mentioned available only for NTFPs, or are they also available for syrup producers to help with woodlot management and or collection systems?
Yeah, excuse me. It's available for mushroom farming, also syrup production. And so with those, like syrup production, we understand a lot of the actual cost might be more infrastructure. And so we kind of work with you with that. And so, because we understand forest farming.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah. So it doesn't look like we have any other questions left. If there are any last minute questions, please feel free to pop those in the chat box or the Q&A and we will get to those. If not, feel free to reach out directly to the speakers. Like as I had mentioned, their email addresses are listed over in the chat. We will meet back here again for our February webinar on Thursday, February 15th at 7 p.m. And that is the Thursday right before the very first Mountain State Maple Days. So just another reminder that if you are not registered, go ahead and do that. If you need help or you have some questions, please feel free to reach out to us. We were more than happy to help with that. A simple email is syrup@future.edu. If you have questions about the webinar or you aren't sure who to send your question to, you can send it to that email as well, and we will make sure that it gets to the appropriate speaker. We do have another question that came in, and this is, does the Department of Tourism assist with liability insurance for ag tourism?
That's a really good question. I'm not aware of any services assisting with that directly. We might be able to put you in touch with the folks at Partner Community Capital to see if they have any technical assistance related to just maybe advising on how to approach that. So please send me an email or drop your email in the chat and I'll try to follow up with you, but no direct resources at this time.
Great, thank you. Thank you to all of our speakers for being here this evening. It was a wonderful presentation. It was definitely packed with a ton of information, and I think most of us are still trying just to digest everything and process But thank you so much for your time and sharing all of the information and resources with everyone. And again, we look forward to seeing everyone back here next month on the 15th. Have a great evening, everyone.